I'm here to talk to you today about the concept of just a waitress. Oh, I used to hate that when people would say that to me. It's like saying you're just a female dog. I mean, really, it's so demeaning and so unnecessary and so horribly incorrect. I started waiting tables when I was, I believe, 21. I waited tables most of the time until I was in my late 40s. I did other jobs too. I did a lot of other jobs. But I decided right away that I was going to be the best that I could be at any job I did. And I stuck by that. I still stick by it. I've been a volunteer since high school, and I do my best to be the best volunteer I can, which sounds funny, but it's true. If you're doing a job, do the best you can. Be the best you can at it. And don't let people put you down. I mean, when I was a kid, you could be either a teacher or a nurse if you were considered professional, and you could be a caregiver or a waitress if you were considered a non-professional or skilled worker or an unskilled laborer. They got all kinds of words they can call it. But when somebody would say, "What do you do?" and I say, "I'm a waitress," they say, "Oh, you're just a waitress," I would just ruffle, because that kind of statement is so unnecessary and so incorrect. In my opinion, one of the most incredible things about having been a waitress for so many years, and I worked in a lot of different places, don't get me wrong. I've really discovered that I actually usually made more money in very fast food kind of places that had service. You know, I'm not talking about McDonald's or something like that. I'm talking about a fast food, a Mexican restaurant or a family restaurant or something that not necessarily had alcohol, which is really funny because people used to tell me, "Oh, if you don't have alcohol, you're not going to make money. Oh, if you don't have rich people, you're not going to make money. Oh. Well, I worked, after I became really good, I worked at the Gaslight Club in Chicago. I worked at the London House in Chicago. I worked at the Urbana Lincoln Hotel in Champaign. I worked at several other high-end hotels. I found that in every case, just being good at what I did, I always did well. I always made a decent living. I supported a family of 6 for over 20 years. And I learned a lot of skills. One of the things I learned is that lots of waitresses make lots of mistakes, especially when they write down what they're doing. And I thought that was odd. And I don't know whether it's careless or shorthand or what it is that caused that issue. I worked at some steakhouses. I worked at private places, private clubs. So many different, and I saw the same thing going on over and over. But when I worked at some high-end restaurants, I saw people able to take several orders with their mind, and even drink orders with their mind, not writing anything down, and do a better job of it. So I set my mind to that. I worked at the Urbana Lincoln pub. It was the cutest little place. It was like an English pub. I loved it. I worked there for years, and it was just drinks. What I found in general is that in mom and pop places, it's tough because the kids are usually noisy and rambunctious and throw food around, but the turnover's quick, so you can still make money. I mean, and a lot of the very wealthy, they sit there forever and don't necessarily tip you well. So you just never know. Now, there were a lot of people that were impressed. I could take up to 14 dinner orders without making a mistake, back to the right person. Same way with drink orders. And people sometimes would get up and switch places just to see if that's what worked. But that's not how I did it. I did it by looking at the person, really looking at the person. And instead of attaching a name like Mike or Mary, I attached rum and coke or gin and tonic. And so when I'd see them again, that would be rum and coke or gin and tonic. And if I said, oh, would you like your usual? A lot of times they would laugh. I got to know the mayors of both Champaign and Urbana just because they'd stop in with their families. And I was good at this, and people would laugh about it. But that's part of what you learn when you work in a lot of different places. But the part that is so clear to me is if you sit down at the table and write down your order at the table where the people are. Ooh, boy, they don't like that. If you're got your nose in the sheet that you're writing it down on, they don't like that. They like you to look at them. And that's why I did so well. Because I looked at people. What they ordered was their name. Sorry, I've got flies out here pestering me. I looked at them, and that became their name. And it worked. It worked really well. And I would recommend anybody do that. If you're working in a place where typically a towel is over your hand, learn that. Learn from the people who've been there the longest. Watch them closely. If you can, ask them for help. A lot of times you won't get it. There's a lot of class situations in restaurants, just like any other business. I like the places the best where that didn't exist, where we all worked together as a group. We all watched each other's coffee cups or whiskey glasses or water glasses or dirty dishes, and we all helped each other. And oh boy, that really works well. Make it clear. I am your server. My name is. Hi, I am your server, and my name is, and the special of the day is, and if you have any questions, get back to me. Same thing here. If you have any questions, please leave them in a comment. I am happy to answer anything. I mean it. I love doing this, so just ask me a question, I'll answer it. Anyway, you do that, but you look at the person right in the eye. That's what people want. They want to be noticed. We all want to be nurtured. We all want to be appreciated. We all want to be noticed. And you can usually tell who's the big man on town, who wants everybody to pay a lot of attention to him. And you can usually tell an abused wife or a child that's overly quiet and all those kinds of things. And being nice, friendly to everybody usually helps a lot with TIPS, to ensure prompt service. That's what that stands for. And if you don't give prompt service, you're going to know it. And even if you do give prompts, if you give the best service there ever was and ever for a table of 15 and they don't leave you a nickel, you still know you did the right thing. If you let that bottle up in your gut, the next table is going to suffer. Don't do it. Just let it go. You have to let it go. And if somebody with two top gives you a $20 bill because somebody else said happy birthday to you as they walked by, and you know that that's why they left it for you, be grateful. If you can see them, or if you see them again, say, thank you so much. That was so kind. I really appreciate it. I have a family, and it really means a lot to me. but don't accept the title, just a waitress. Never do that. If you don't accept that title, that put down of the word JUST, it's a 4-letter word, you know. If you don't accept that, you tend to work at what you're doing with more pride. You tend to spend more attention about why you're there and what you're doing and who you're helping. And anytime you can remember something, like if someone's come in and said that grandma's sick, if you can remember that, it's important. How's grandma doing? If you remembered that your customer's brother just had a baby, hey, how's the baby? If you remember that somebody just moved, hi, is the move been good? Are you finished? Have you put all the clothes away and unpacked all the boxes? And anything like that that you're able to remember is priceless. Why? Because you just made somebody feel important. You just looked at them. When a waitress comes up to me, she has her head down, she goes, well, can I get you something? Okay, and walks away. I'm not really interested. They're not my server. They're a portal to bring me my food, but nothing more than that. But to stop and look at a person, make sure you're clean. Oh, I'll never remember. I was in jewelry design school, and I had spilled an acid on my hands that had made black marks in certain places on my hands. It was really funny looking. And I had to go to work that night. So I went to work and said, hi, it's nice to see you this evening. I hope I'll be your server, and I hope you have a good evening. I just want to let you know that I am an art student, and I spilled some acid on my hands today. And my hands look funny, but they're not dirty. They're absolutely clean. It's just that the acid has made funny colors on my hands. So I hope you'll overlook that while I'm serving you tonight. That way, you've been upfront with them. Or you could say, hi, I'm your server, and I'm sorry, I'm just feeling a little off tonight. I hope you'll be patient with me. I'm usually pretty sharp on my business, and I take a great deal of pride in my service, so I hope that you'll understand. I'm just a little bit off tonight, okay? Thank you. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that honesty and straightforward to people is a lot of what we're missing in the world, and we want to be able to acknowledge each other and show appreciation for each other. Another thing I mentioned just earlier, and it's very important, is teamwork. If you can put yourself in the position where people will cooperate, and I know there's always the oddball who is worried about tips and worried about everything else, and really hard to be around. But in general, if you can get the other people to work well with you, one of the things I enjoyed is if we finished up a Saturday night and people said, hey, let's go over to Fred's place because he's still open, we can all have a drink and talk together. Boy, that was always a good idea. Even those waitresses who didn't drink would go and have a glass of soda water with lime in it or something. It was so important. It was a big part of the bonding. Another thing I did was I made uniforms. I made uniforms for the cocktail waitresses. I made uniforms for the dinner waitresses. The cocktail waitresses, of course, were shorter. The dinner waitresses were very elegant. Waitress outfits were very elegant. That way I was able to use one of my other talents, which is sewing, and I did some fancy gold around the necks, and they were quite lovely, very elegant, very, very simple, and very beautiful, and easy to take care of because I understood all the things that were going on. That ties you closer to the other people too. Anything you could do like that. If you remember somebody's birthday, anybody at work, remember their birthday. Somebody says, oh, it's Fred's birthday. Write it down. Write it down. And then remember it the next year. those kinds of things bring you together. You become a stronger community, a group that's more committed to service. And if you quietly, humbly, you have to be humble about how you're serving people and taking care of people and how you feel about your job and whether or not you blow smoke in somebody's face or spill a drink on someone or whatever it is that you're doing. It's important. It's important because that teamwork really, really makes a big difference. Try to be humble, to thank anyone that comes and helps you. If you spill something, thanks anyone if they help you with an order that's particularly large or cumbersome, or if you need a tray set up trays for them so that they can put down the big heavy tray stands, the tray stands that are like this. If you have a big heavy tray for a lot of people, any help you can get, any help you can, sorry, my dogs. If any help you can get like that makes a huge difference. Getting along with your fellow employees can be such a benefit. And of course, some places split tips. That's something I never liked. You need to find that out before you go to work for them, because you need to make those decisions on what you want. Are they going to feed you? When I worked in country clubs, they would feed us breakfast if we came in on a Sunday, or they would feed us lunch if we were coming in late because of a dinner party or a convention or whatever it was. Those are nice bonuses. On Christmas time, they used to give us a turkey, and then they would give us whatever we asked for. They gave us a choice of like electric blanket or a toaster oven or something like that. Those kinds of things mean a lot. Again, it's about working together as a group, as a team, to create something that is just one level higher. And you can step those levels up. You can step those levels up just by staying humble and just by doing your best. And if somebody asks you, hey, are you trying to be real uppity or something like they do that, say, why, no. I'm just trying to meet the level of service that I think this place deserves and I deserve to have given to people. It's important to me to be able to give people the kind of service they expect. Regardless of where I'm working, I think that's incredibly important, and it's good for my own self-esteem. I feel like at the end of the day I've done a good job, and that kind of thing is very satisfying. Now, it can be hard if you've come from a family where you're not important, where your parents have put you down and act like you're not important, haven't given you a sense of pride, self-confidence. That's why I've always helped others who seemed like they needed that, to give them the go to bring their work up. And one of the things that I will always believe in strongly, very strongly, is that if you have a background in food service and you step into your own kitchen, regardless of how old you are, I mean, I'm not saying the first time you've ever had your own kitchen, but regardless of how old you are, what ends up happening is you've learned the courses that you've had to take for health have taught you how to handle yourself, how to keep your hands clean, how to keep the counters clean, how to wash the dishes correctly, what temperature to set the heat on for the drying and washing, rinsing of the dishes, how to be a sous chef, how to check the flavor of things, how to watch the pan heat, whatever it is. There's a difference between a whiskey sour and a gin and tonic or a rum and coke. All those different aspects, if you have consciously worked on putting that together for yourself, it's going to make a difference in the whole organization. And you're not brown-nosing the boss. And no, that's not That's not what's going on here. What you're doing is bringing your level up and the level of everybody else who's working there, so that you do function as a team and you do function in a manner where everyone feels like what is going on in the restaurant is a cooperative situation, and that kind of cooperation, instead of sniffing at each other and rolling your eyes and things like that, makes the customer uncomfortable because they think that things aren't all together, and that's not a good situation. You want the boss to be happy, and you want all the customers to be happy. And so that's another, again, down in the description, leave a question. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I owned a bakery. I owned a garden restaurant. I have, like I said, I've worked in the London House in Chicago, which is a dinner theater. I worked in the Gaslight Club, which was a 1920s kind of a situation where we danced to Charleston and did French service. It was very elegant. It was a key club. And I've worked in just about every mom and pop restaurant you can imagine. So any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Just let me know. I'm right here, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm too old to go anywhere. I'm too old to wait tables anymore. But my husband appreciates it. My husband's 85. And when I serve him, he is served with the same level of dignity that I did in the restaurant. And I hope that this has been a help to you thinking about your job. You are not just a waitress. You are a server with a profession that requires a great deal of experience and commitment. And I was always proud to be in that field. Thank you for watching. Bye.